The photography studio smelled of expensive leather and lavender. Mom had booked Preston and Associates for our family portrait, the same studio that photographed senators and old money families whose names appeared on hospital wings. This wasn't just a family photo. This was a statement piece, destined for the entry hall of my parents' newly renovated mansion. "Lauren, you stand here front and center," Mom directed my older sister, positioning her directly in the photographer's line of sight. "You're the patent attorney after all." And Nathan right beside her. "We need everyone to see that Harvard law degree." My brother adjusted his tie, the silk one that cost more than my monthly rent. His law firm had just made him junior partner at 29. Lauren's pharmaceutical company had promoted her to senior counsel last month. They were the success stories, the children my parents actually talked about at dinner parties. And Sophie. Mom's eyes finally landed on me, her expression flickering with disappointment. "Just stand in the back, sweetheart. Behind your father's shoulder where you won't be too noticed. We want the focus on the family's achievements." I moved to the back row without arguing. The photographer's assistant handed me a step stool so I'd be visible at all. Barely. My face would be half hidden behind Dad's head, a shadow in the background of my family's carefully curated success. "Perfect," Mom breathed. "This really captures who we are as a family." Who they were. Lauren in her Armani suit. Nathan with his Rolex catching the light. And me, 27-year-old Sophie Bennett, tucked away where I wouldn't mar the image with my lack of impressive credentials. They didn't know about the diplomatic work. They thought I was still working as a translator for a small international nonprofit, barely making ends meet. I'd mentioned it once, 3 years ago, and Mom had patted my hand sympathetically. "That's nice, dear. Everyone needs to find their own path, even if it's not particularly distinguished." After that they'd stopped asking. When extended family inquired about me, Mom would sigh delicately and say, "Sophie's still finding herself." What they didn't know was that my small nonprofit was a front for diplomatic translation work with the State Department. That I'd spent the last 3 years facilitating negotiations between heads of state. That I spoke 7 languages fluently and had been instrumental in 3 major peace treaties. That my work was so sensitive, so classified, that I couldn't correct their assumptions even if I wanted to. Their dismissal had become a strange kind of freedom. While they obsessed over Lauren's courtroom victories and Nathan's billable hours, I worked in the shadows of international diplomacy, actually changing lives. But standing on this step stool, positioned like an embarrassing afterthought, something twisted in my chest. "Let's do a few test shots," the photographer said, peering through his camera. The studio door chimed. Preston, the owner, stepped out looking flustered. "I apologize for the interruption, but there's a courier asking for Sophie Bennett?" Mom's eyebrows rose. "A courier? Sophie, are you expecting something?" A man in formal diplomatic livery entered, burgundy coat with gold braiding, white gloves, a leather portfolio embossed with the royal coat of arms. The studio went silent. "Miss Sophie Bennett?" His accent was crisp, unmistakably British upper class. "Yes. I am James Whitmore, attaché to His Majesty's Ambassador to the United States. I've been instructed to deliver this to you personally." He produced an envelope, heavy cream paper with a golden wax seal bearing the royal cipher. My hands shook as I took it. Behind me I heard Mom's sharp intake of breath. "His Majesty was quite specific that this be delivered today," Whitmore continued. "He wished to express his personal gratitude for your extraordinary service during the recent Commonwealth negotiations." Lauren's mouth fell open. Nathan's smug expression crumbled. I broke the seal. The letter was written on official Buckingham Palace stationery. "Dear Miss Bennet, it is with profound gratitude that I write to thank you for your exceptional work in facilitating the recent Commonwealth trade negotiations. Your linguistic expertise and diplomatic acumen were instrumental in achieving an agreement that will benefit millions of citizens across our nations. It is my pleasure to invite you to Buckingham Palace next month as our honored guest, where I should like to personally present you with the Royal Victorian Order for your distinguished service to the Crown and Commonwealth. You are welcome to bring 4 guests of your choosing. With deep appreciation, Charles R." The signature was unmistakable. His Majesty King Charles III. "The Royal Victorian Order," Whitmore said quietly, "is one of His Majesty's highest personal honors. It's rarely given to non-British citizens. Miss Bennet, the king considers your work invaluable. Will you accept the invitation? Yes, I whispered. Of course. Excellent. His Majesty suggested you might wish to bring family members. His pause was pointed. Though the decision is entirely yours. He bowed and departed, leaving stunned silence. Sophie, Mom's voice cracked. You work for the king? With him? With the State Department. I've been a diplomatic translator and negotiator for 3 years. 3 years. Lauren's voice was strangled. You never said anything? I tried to tell you. You were discussing Nathan's first case. Mom told me everyone finds their path eventually, even if it's not particularly distinguished. I looked at Mom's pale face. I'm classified. Most of my work is confidential. I've negotiated in Geneva, Brussels, London, and Washington. The Commonwealth Trade Agreement took 18 months. I translated personally for 3 prime ministers. Preston was frantically adjusting his lights, recognizing the moment unfolding. Nathan found his voice. Sophie, I had no idea. Of course you didn't. You never asked. None of you did. You decided who I was 3 years ago and never bothered to look again. That's not fair, Lauren protested. You never told us. I mentioned the State Department. I mentioned diplomatic work. Mom patted my head and said I was finding myself. When I couldn't discuss details because of classification, you assumed there were no details worth discussing. Mom's makeup couldn't hide how pale she'd gone. Sophie, darling, we didn't understand. You didn't want to understand. I wasn't a patent attorney or a Harvard lawyer. So you put me in the back of the photo where I wouldn't be noticed. I stepped down from the stool. The King of England noticed me. The State Department noticed me. 3 governments restructured their trade policies because I noticed the details everyone else missed. Preston approached cautiously. Miss Bennet, perhaps we should reconfigure the portrait? Actually, I don't think I want to be in this portrait at all. I picked up my coat. I have 4 guest slots for Buckingham Palace. I'll be taking my colleagues from the State Department. The people who actually see me. You can't be serious, Nathan said. We're your family. You're the people who put me behind everyone else because I was an embarrassment. Because I didn't meet your standards of success. I moved toward the door. While you were busy being ashamed of me, I was actually doing something that mattered. Something that will be remembered. Lauren's composure cracked. This is ridiculous. I'm not asking for your permission. I stopped needing that the day you made it clear I'd never be good enough. I paused. Enjoy your portrait. I hope it captures exactly what you wanted. A family that cares more about appearing successful than being decent human beings. The news broke within 48 hours. The embassy made a formal announcement. The State Department released a statement praising my invaluable contributions. My name appeared in the Washington Post, the New York Times, and the Guardian. Mom's phone calls went to voicemail. Dad's emails were deleted unread. Nathan and Lauren showed up at my apartment. I didn't answer. Their social circle noticed. The country club had questions. Why wasn't Sophie Bennet, soon to be honored by the King of England, featured in their family portrait? Why had they never mentioned her remarkable career? Nathan's firm lost a major client, a multinational corporation doing business with Commonwealth nations. They quietly preferred firms with better judgment about family values. Lauren's company faced questions during a board meeting. The pharmaceutical industry relied on international cooperation. Their lack of awareness didn't reflect well. Dad's investment firms suffered worst. 3 major clients withdrew their portfolios. If he missed something that obvious in his own house, one wrote, "What else is he missing in my investments?" Mom's charity board position was restructured. The board felt someone who'd excluded her own daughter might not be the best face for an organization promoting family services. They'd positioned me in the back to hide me and exposed exactly who they really were. 3 weeks before the ceremony, I received a handwritten letter from Mom. Sophie, I have no excuse. We were so focused on the success we understood that we couldn't see real achievement right in front of us. You deserved parents who asked questions, who paid attention, who cared about who you actually were. I don't expect forgiveness. I just wanted you to know I finally understand what we lost. I hope the king knows how lucky he is to have your service. I won't ask to be at the ceremony. I know I gave up that right when I handed you a step stool and told you to hide. I'm sorry. I read it 3 times. Then folded it and put it in a drawer. Sorry doesn't undo 3 years of dismissal. Sorry doesn't erase standing on a step stool while your family poses without you. Buckingham Palace was magnificent. His Majesty presented the Royal Victorian Order personally, thanking me for service that exemplifies the best of international cooperation and human dignity. My 4 guests were there. My State Department mentor, 2 diplomatic colleagues, and my best friend from college, the only person outside work who'd known what I was really doing. During the private dinner, His Majesty asked about my family. They couldn't attend, Your Majesty. He studied me with knowing eyes. Their loss, Miss Bennet. Those who cannot recognize brilliance in their own home rarely deserve proximity to greatness elsewhere. The palace photographer captured everything. The ceremony, the dinner, the moment His Majesty and I stood reviewing a historical treaty translation. Official photos released to the press, visible to anyone with internet access, including my family. I flew home 2 days later. My apartment was full of flowers from embassies and colleagues. Tucked among them was a small arrangement of white roses with Mom's card. We saw the photos. You were magnificent. We'll never forgive ourselves. I left the flowers by the door. A week later, I accepted a promotion. The State Department wanted me in Geneva, heading a new climate treaty initiative. More responsibility, more impact, more classified work that would never make dinner party conversation. Before I left, I had my own portrait taken at Preston's studio. Just me, in diplomatic dress, confident and composed, the Royal Victorian Order visible at my collar. I had it framed and sent a copy to my parents with a note, for your entrance hall. In case anyone asks about the Bennet family achievements. I never heard whether they hung it. Some families earn the right to celebrate your success. Others only notice you when everyone else already has. Mine chose to see me only after a king validated what should have been obvious. They wanted a perfect family portrait. Instead, they got an empty space where I used to stand, and a daughter who learned that real family isn't about blood or photographs. It's about people who see you clearly and love what they find. The palace photos hang in my Geneva apartment now. Reminders that recognition matters most when it comes from people who actually understand what you've accomplished. I know exactly what I'm worth and exactly what they lost when they handed me that step stool and told me to disappear. The Geneva apartment came with a view of Lake Geneva and the Alps beyond. My office at the diplomatic mission overlooked the Palais des Nations, where world leaders gathered to negotiate humanity's future. I'd been there 3 months when the invitation arrived. Not from my family, I'd heard nothing from them since sending the portrait. This invitation came from the International Diplomatic Institute, requesting I deliver the keynote address at their annual gala. The event would be attended by ambassadors, foreign ministers, and heads of state from 60 nations. It's the most prestigious speaking engagement in international relations, my mentor explained. They're calling you the youngest keynote speaker in the Institute's 100-year history. This is enormous, Sophie. The gala was being held in London, 2 miles from Buckingham Palace, 4 miles from where my family had relocated 6 months ago. Dad's firm had opened a London office, a desperate attempt to salvage their reputation by starting fresh somewhere new. I knew because Nathan had sent a single email I'd actually opened. We moved to London. Dad thought distance might help. It hasn't. We see your face everywhere here. You're famous in diplomatic circles. Everyone knows your name. We're the family that didn't. That will never stop haunting us. I'd deleted it without responding. Now I'd be in their city, speaking at an event that would be covered by international media, attended by people who actually understood what I'd accomplished. The night of the gala, I wore midnight blue silk and the Royal Victorian Order. The ballroom glittered with power and prestige. I was seated at the head table between a Swedish ambassador and a former UN Secretary General. During dinner I noticed them. My family, seated at table 43, nearly hidden in the back corner. Mom in a dress that probably cost thousands but looked desperate. Dad's face gray and tired. Lauren and Nathan on either side looking diminished. They'd bought tickets. Somehow secured seats to an event with a 2-year waiting list. They'd come to watch me speak from the shadows, the way they'd once positioned me. The reversal wasn't lost on me. When I took the podium, 500 faces looked up. I spoke about diplomacy, about the delicate art of building bridges between nations that didn't want to agree. About how the most important negotiations happen in the margins, In the quiet moments when no one's watching, when success isn't measured by applause but by lives changed. We must recognize value where it exists, I said, looking directly at table 43, not where it's convenient. Not where it fits our expectations. True achievement often happens in silence, in shadows, in places we're not looking. And when we miss it, when we fail to see what matters because we're too focused on what looks impressive, we lose something irreplaceable. Mom's hand covered her mouth. Dad stared at his lap. After the speech, the crowd stood. Ambassadors lined up to speak with me. The Austrian foreign minister invited me to Vienna. The Japanese delegation requested my consultation on trade protocols. And my family sat at table 43 watching from the back, finally understanding what they'd lost. They tried to approach afterward. Security stopped them. I'd given specific instructions. Through the crowd I saw Mom mouth, "Please." Saw Dad's shoulders shake. Saw Lauren crying openly. I turned away and let the Swedish ambassador guide me toward a reception with people who'd earned the right to my time. Some distances can't be crossed. Some positions in the back row become permanent. They'd chosen where I belonged once. Now I was choosing where they belonged in my life. Nowhere. The answer was nowhere at all.